First of all, I wish to thank you all for finding time to listen to me on a subject which is of crucial importance for the future of India. I'm going to discuss the topic in three parts. First, I'll define what is corruption, because there's so much, the term is used quite loosely and without thinking. So I'll define corruption, which should be of our primary concern. Second, I will talk about why corruption is bad, its multi-dimensional effect on the Indian society and Indian economy. And finally, what can be the cure, both short run and long term. Corruption is a term used quite loosely. Recently, the Congress General Secretary, Digvijay Singh, he accused Ramdev of being corrupt because he was accepting money in cash. Now, that's an extraordinary statement, because supposing I'm a corrupt person, I have lots of cash in my pocket, and I go by taxi, and I pay the taxi driver in cash, which he is entitled to receive. Is the taxi driver also corrupt because he accepted my money, which is essentially black? So therefore, in order to have a definition which is of significance for the nation, I define corruption as a misuse of public office for private gain. When you are in a public office and then you misuse it so that either you or somebody else or your family or all of you together benefit by that misuse. Essentially what happens is that the choice is not made on merit. It is the misuse leads to sub-optimization of the choices. I put out a tender for a road to be built, and somebody comes and says that please put in conditions in the tender by which I will get it, and I'll pay you so much. It's possible that the person in charge, it could be a secretary of a ministry, could be a collector in a district, or a minister himself, if it's a very big project like a national highway, he could say, no, this is not enough, give me more. And in order to build a track record, the man pays the amount demanded and gets the tender, but he knows that if he implements the tender according to the conditions put in the tender, he will not make a profit. So what he does is he makes substandard use of substandard material, so that when the road is built, one monsoon will bring in all the potholes in it. Of course, that's convenient. Then every year you can have a new tender and have a new project for it. So this is one way. The 2G spectrum is exactly that. What happened is that spectrum was to be allocated, 2G spectrum. 2G means second generation. Of course, there are a lot of people who don't know what this 2G is. And once I jokingly asked Manmohan Singh in a function in Parliament House, do you know what 2G is? And he jokingly says that many people think that I think it is Sonia ji and Rahul ji. But you know that cordless phone, the frequency, it's a long frequency cycle. It does not carry more than your voice. But 2G will carry your, not only your voice, but also SMS, MMS, email, and your photographs also. 3G would carry the video of your talking. So obviously these have, the more and more cycles you have, the more frequency you have of cycles, the more data you are able to carry. And the sky has to be partitioned for that. I don't have to tell you all this, you're all past masters in this. But the fact is that this allocation is of a scarce resource, namely the sky. And therefore, it has to be allocated most efficiently. And one of the most efficient ways of doing it when there is a huge demand, and there's bound to have been a huge demand because in 2001, when the licenses of this kind began, we had only 40 million mobile telephones in our country. In 2008, when the 2G spectrum licenses were given, we had 700 million mobile phones. Big market. A lot of people wanted to get into it. So Mr. Raja, who became telecom minister, and a little before Dayanidhi Maran, they both decided to devise ways by which they could earn some money. And one of the ways they devised is that they, number one, fixed the price very low. It's actually Mr. Raja who did it. Maran did something else which I'll refer to a little later. But Mr. Raja wanted the price fixed at 2001 level, when the 2008 price was 10 times more. And how do we know it's 10 times more? I will tell you that in a minute. In any case, I'll tell you briefly that those who got the licenses, they sold a good part of their shareholding, including controlling shares, at 8 times the price. So at least it is 8 times. And in the case of the 3G auction, which was auctioned because of the scandal on 2G, when the 3G was to be dispersed, the government decided to have an auction and they got 12 times as much. So anyway, you get a ballpark figure of 10. And Mr. Raja decided that he will have the spectrum sold at, spectrum licenses sold at 1/10 the price. So that was his first crime. Of course, that he didn't decide alone. This I found out much later, after having sent him to jail. And I found out that in 2006, at the insistence of Dayanidhi Maran, the cabinet, the Prime Minister, took the extraordinary decision that the spectrum price will be decided by 2 ministers, the Minister of Finance, who was then Chidambaram, and the Minister of Telecom, who was Dayanidhi Maran and subsequently Raja. These two will decide, and there is no need for reference back to the cabinet for approval. During the BJP government or the NDA government, it was decided that these 2 ministers will decide, but there was to be a reference made back to the cabinet for approval. So this was further diluted by Mr. Manmohan Singh to allow these 2 ministers to decide. So I have subsequently discovered documents to find out that in fact the price of 2001 was decided jointly by Chidambaram and Mr. Raja. And if Raja is in jail for fixing the price at 1/10 the price, then why should Chidambaram be outside jail? So I filed a petition in the Supreme Court, which was heard on 13th of May. But then the court wanted the CBI input also, because my plea to the Supreme Court was that they should ask the CBI to investigate. And so the CBI has to give a reply. And then in the meantime, I came to teach for 2 months at Harvard. So a date of 24th August has been fixed for hearing. And I expect that after that, the Tihar jail will also have one more Tamil ministers. But the good news is that now Tihar jail has started serving idli and masala dosa. But I also told the superintendent of Tihar jail that also now prepare pizzas and ravioli and So this was the first fraud committed on the country. And if you had auctioned, how much would you have got? If you multiply the amounts we got by a factor of 10, you would have got an additional 1,76,000 crores. And that 1,76,000 crores roughly translates into $40 billion. $40 billion means your entire infrastructure can be built with that money, and your deficit in the budget will be completely wiped out. Or you can set up 100 brand new, modern, advanced universities in the country to reap your demographic dividends. So $40,000 gone. Where is it gone? Most of it has gone to those to whom those who got the licenses sold it. They have been the greatest beneficiaries. That's another thing Raja did, which was with the help of Mr. Chidambaram. And what that was, that he wanted to ensure that some of his favored parties definitely got the license. So, in the beginning, because the TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, had said there should be no cap on the number of applications and let everybody apply. And as the spectrum becomes available, go on giving to everybody. But Raja was impatient. So on 25th September 2007, he drew a line. He said, 1st October 2007 is the deadline. If you apply by 1st October 2007, then you will be considered, otherwise you will not be considered. Now, why he chose 25th September as the date, that I'll come to in a minute. But people were taken aback because they were doing it in a relaxed way. They thought it will apply after Diwali and this kind of thing, when their accounts are settled in a final manner with the income tax, so on. So many other considerations. They were thinking of doing it in a leisurely way. And suddenly they got this 1st October deadline. So there was a rush. And since the country is divided into 22 circles, each got some applied for all India licenses, some applied for only regional licenses, and total number of licenses that were filed was 571. 571 licenses, applications were filed. That was 1st of October. Now on 10th January of 2008, Mr. Raja issues two press releases, this time not in newspapers, but in his ministry website. And he says, first thing is that 571 application also is too much. And therefore, I think that to begin with, all those who applied on or before 25th September 2007, they will be considered. Later on, we will worry about the others. Now, the deadline is over. 3 months and 10 days are over. And suddenly he said, no, I will now only consider applications filed between on or before 25th September 2007. And therefore, those who filed after 25th September, before 1st October, they were all denied. One industrialist, his name was Shiv Shankar, at that time, originally he was the owner of Airsa. He went to court, challenged it. The High Court upheld it. Government went in the High Court. And I got word that the government is now going to screw this man completely, twist his arm, going to slap a number of cases so that he withdraws and the High Court judgment is set aside. It is that time I entered the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court asked me, what's your interest? I said, I find there may be a collusion between these two parties, and by definition, businessmen cannot stand up to government. So therefore, I would like to be impleaded. The court impleaded me, and as I had predicted, Shiv Shankaran surrendered in court, and he said, I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. And normally the Supreme Court would have set aside the Delhi High Court decision of this change in the cutoff date. And but because I was there, they recorded that we heard Dr. Subramanian Swamy, and therefore we uphold the Delhi High Court decision. So that's how the process began. But in the 10th January, Mr. Raja also did something which is, in my opinion, unprecedented in world history. And that is, he said, he issued the press release at 2:45 p.m., 10th January. And this is in his ministry website. And he says that whoever brings a demand draft for rupees 1651 crores between 3:30 in the afternoon and 4:30 in the afternoon, only they will be considered. Now I know in India even to get 1 lakh demand draft in 45 minutes is impossible. And 1651 crores. Yet 9 companies had them in their pocket. Of them were 2 companies. One was Swan Telecom, it was called Swan Capital at that time, and Unitech. Both were real estate companies. They had no experience whatsoever in telecom. And they were favorites of Mr. Raja. And Raja wanted to benefit them. And therefore, they were already seated in the minister's room with the demand draft. So when the press release came out, at 3:30, his secretary, Mr. Chandolia, was also in jail keeping Raja company. He took them and gave them the license. 7 others got it, including Tata's, Videocon, Ruya's, so many. And all of them, having got it, in the case of the Swan Telecom, Swan Capital, which later called itself Swan Telecom, and Unitech, which is a Delhi-based real estate company, they sold their controlling shares to 2 companies, foreign companies. One was Etisalat, which is Dubai-based company, and the other is Telenor, which is a Norwegian company which has business mostly in Pakistan and Bangladesh. And these 2 companies did not qualify to buy these shares because there was a Home Ministry advisory when Mr. Chidambaram was finance minister that Etisalat and Telenor should not be allowed any business in India because Etisalat is a front company for ISI of Pakistan. And of course Etisalat is heavily bought into the Pakistan Telecommunication Limited, PTCL, which is a Pakistan government company. 9 of the 14 directors are from Etisalat. So Etisalat was held by our ministry, according to the advisory, to be a ISI front company. And it said that the India office of that Etisalat, the head is one Mr. Shahid Balwaz, who is also a Bombay builder, and he is the right-hand man of Dawood Ibrahim. Of course, Mr. Shahid Balwaz is right now in jail for the same reason, for the same case. But this is what the Home Ministry said. And as far as Telenor is concerned, the Home Ministry said they buy equipment from the Chinese army, which telecom equipment can also double for cyber warfare. And therefore, it's a danger to India that in the event of a conflict between India and China, they can make all your defense electronics and defense computers stop functioning because of this capacity. So they should not be allowed anywhere in India. And that's why they couldn't even apply for telecom license. But now, they came by the back door. They bought the controlling interest by paying 8 times what Swan Telecom and Unitech paid. And now they are functioning in India. Their services have started. I have filed a petition with the Supreme Court saying that all licenses given in 2008 January by Mr. Raja should be cancelled. The court heard it. Court heard it and orders have been reserved. And the judgment should come any day. If it is cancelled, I have suggested that you can have a re-auction, you can have an auction, and these companies which, according to the Home Ministry advisory, should be disqualified. And what bribes they paid, that's their headache. We are not concerned. We'll catch them by another route when we get to the money trail. So here is a gross misuse of public office. Of course, Raja, who has got an LLB, argued his own case recently when the charges were to be filed. He said, even this I did with Chidambaram's clearance. And there is a mysterious lady called Neera Radia who is talking with one of the telecom people in the ministry. And that fellow is also, that tape also we have got and filed in the court, where he says that the Chidambaram is so greedy that after getting all the money, he still wants more. So I think of the longest term to serve for anybody in jail might be Mr. Chidambaram, more than even Raja, I think. But anyway, this is the misuse that has taken place. How much money was lost? $40 billion. How much was the bribe paid? About 60,000 crore rupees, which is roughly about $12 billion. $12 billion did not go to Raja's pocket. Raja himself one day told me in the Central Hall Parliament before he was arrested that, now why are you doing all these cases? Nothing is going to happen. I have fixed everybody in this. So I later found out, not from him, but from someone very close to him. I'll tell you who that is. According to this person, the 60,000 crores was 60% went to Sonia Gandhi. That's why I was talking about pizzas. 60% means 36,000 crores. It is being deposited in Macau. I have good relations with China. One day I intend to twist their arm on this. But Macau is the safest place today. Switzerland is no more safe because the Americans have beaten them black and blue. And they have passed such laws that it's very easy now to get the money out. But I'll tell you a little bit about that a little later. Mr. Karnani, Mr. Raja got only 3,000 crores. Only. Considering he used to come by bicycle 15 years ago to party office of the DMK, 3,000 crores is a lot. And I remember the clothes he used to wear and the clothes he's now wearing. Big difference there was. And 3,000 crores, Chidambaram got another 5,000. That means that accounts for 44,000. And the remaining 16,000 went to Mr. Karnanidhi. Of course, Karnanidhi deserves more because he's got 3 wives and a lot of children. Now, this was the way it was done. Naturally, with all these so powerful people getting the money, no one did anything. So I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister that please give me permission to prosecute Raja. Now, under the Prevention of Corruption Act, if there is a misuse of public office, you can file a criminal complaint in a court. It's not necessary that only the government can file. Private citizens can also file. But whether the government, like the CBI files or the private citizen files, they have to get permission of an appropriate authority. An appropriate authority is defined as a person who is in a position to dismiss that employee or take his resignation. So in the case of ministers, it is the Prime Minister in the center and Chief Minister in the state. In the case of the Chief Minister and the Prime Minister, the sanctioning authority, the person who gives you sanction to go ahead, is the governor in the state and president in the center. So I asked the Prime Minister for a sanction. With the documents, I sent it to him. Because this sanctioning thing has been brought in mainly because you don't want scurrilous and frivolous applications being filed in court and harassing ministers. So therefore a filter is necessary. So we give it a sanctioning authority and he'll see whether there is some kind of prima facie case. If there is, he would give you the permission. So I wrote to the Prime Minister, no reply. Then I wrote him a second letter sending him more documents, no reply. Third letter, fourth letter, fifth letter. Then I decided to go to Supreme Court. I'm happy to say that the framers of our Constitution have incorporated one clause, one article, whereby if the government does not perform its statutory duty, the court can step in and perform that statutory duty for the government. But it cannot do it so moto, there has to be a petition. So I filed that petition. And the court, and I gave all these 5 letters I'd written to the PM. And the court was very upset. And they did what was unprecedented, according to me, in the history of the world. They sent a direction to the Prime Minister to file an affidavit why he did not reply to my letters. That was the question. When a Supreme Court asks somebody to file an affidavit, it means they are not willing to take your word. They want you to file an affidavit so that if you tell a lie, you can be prosecuted for perjury. So to ask the Prime Minister you file an affidavit is an extraordinary step. There was a great deal of demand. Immediately the Prime Minister should step down. But I did the extraordinary thing of telling the court that I am not in favor of the Prime Minister stepping down. There's a lot of criticism. I softened up. Have I got a cut to in India? Even Sita Devi was not spared by the Dhobi in Ramayana. Doubts come very fast to the minds of our people. But the fact is that if Prime Minister had gone, this Manmohan Singh had gone, I know that he is a boneless creature, a spineless creature. I've known this since we were professors together. In fact, he was my economic advisor when I was a minister. He had gone away abroad and settled down in Geneva. I telephoned him and brought him to India. And he became my, Chandrasekhar was Prime Minister. We made him Prime Minister, I made him economic advisor. And subsequently, Narasimha Rao took him and made him Finance Minister. But from the beginning, I've known him for now maybe 40, 45 years. We know that Mr. Manmohan Singh is a good man, but he has no spine. Now the problem is that if he is removed, I will lose a good man without a spine and replace him with a corrupt man with a spine. And therefore, what is the gain? I knew that Mr. Manmohan Singh can't give his sanction because there is a higher sanctioning authority called Sonia Gandhi, whose sanction he has to take first. So, therefore, he did file an affidavit in which every letter I got, he wrote, very important letter, very serious matter, please advise. The officers write, no need to take any notice of it. Now, that's the matter, that ends the matter. He didn't do anything. So, you can compare him to Bhishmacharya, who watched Draupadi being stripped. And at that time, He kept saying, I'm helpless, I'm duty bound because they won the dice game, etc. It is Lord Krishna who said to Arjuna during the battle that now is the time for you to finish him off. So he said, "He's my teacher. What wrong did he do? After all, we lost the dice game." He said, "Even if it is legally correct, I'm now paraphrasing it in my modern language, even if it's legally correct, but where a moral wrong takes place for the implementation of a legally correct decision, you must prefer the moral right and not the legally correct approach." And therefore, finishing up. So I'm in favor of finishing off the whole UPA, like the Kauravas. And that will happen very soon, I can tell you, because of certain other developments. But now coming back to this, this was how I got the sanction. I went to court, filed it, Raja went to jail, then Kanimori, then Dayadi Maran is probably packing his bags now. What did he do? He forced this Shiv Shankaran to part with Aircel and sell it to a Malaysian Tamil from Sri Lanka called Anant Krishnan to enable him to come into India. And everybody knows that Anant Krishnan is a money launderer for the LTTE. So on one hand you have Dawood, ISI, China, LTTE. Is this country for us or for all these people? So he's now caught on that. It's only a matter of time. And then 24th August, when my case comes, Chidambaram. And then I found to my utter surprise that Unitech, which sold its license to Telenor, actually 20% of his shares is owned by Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law, Vadra. Yes. So Mr. Vadra, everybody knows that Ananta Krishnan is a money launderer for the LTTE. So on one hand you have Dawood, ISI, China, LTTE. Is this country for us or for all these people? So he's now caught on that. It's only a matter of time. And then 24th August, when my case comes, Chidambaram. And then I found to my utter surprise that Unitech, which sold its license to Telenor, actually 20% of its shares is owned by Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law, Vadra. Yes. So Mr. Vadra will go first. And then he will be in the reception party for his mother-in-law when it comes. Of course, these are going on. The court, I must say, people told me, "Why are you doing all this? Nothing will happen." This is the general public sentiment. But everything has happened suddenly. Now they say it is because Mr. Kapadia has become Chief Justice. That's why it's happening. It's true, Mr. Kapadia is a very upright, honest man. Compared to his previous predecessor, he is a gem. But this is the whole thing about struggle. Suddenly something changes. When I was fighting the emergency, people will say, what are you doing fighting the emergency? Settle down at Harvard, have a good time, forget about all this. I'd come to America, I'd escaped to America. And I was campaigning here, people said, "Never go, she's very strong, Indira Gandhi. She's in complete control, there's no protest, everything is silent." And then one day, Indira Gandhi declares an election, and she loses the election herself. Her own constituency she loses. Now, how could I have foreseen that? Nobody could have foreseen that. Even if I had foreseen that and I told people, "Oh, emergency will go because Indira Gandhi will call an election and she will lose the election," people would have thought I was mad to think like these, and I'm living in a fool's paradise. So I am saying to you, in the struggle, only a part of your efforts make the final result. The final result comes because some event takes place. And here the new Chief Justice came and everything changed. The judges have become extremely, they've become extremely conscious of this danger that the country faces. When I pointed out these national security angles, they were shocked and they immediately ordered the CBI to make the necessary investigation. And I must say that they have done things which had never happened before. They have said to the CBI, you are not to listen to the government of India, you only listen to us, and we will hear Mr. Swamy on what he has to say, and then we will ask you and then direct you what is to be done. This is an extraordinary step, that the CBI is no more to listen to the government of India, is no more under the thumb of the government of India, but against under the court. So this process is on, and I think it will go to the very end. There are all kinds of attempts to put obstacles in me. There's a huge controversy that is now being created in my prescription for fighting terrorism. Those are all things which happen, it doesn't concern me. I think that this is a very important corruption case that we must bring to finality. We must ensure that everybody concerned must go to jail to set an example for the whole country that such a thing can happen in our democratic system. I must tell you, I have got 2 invitations from 2 governments to come and help them clean up corruption. One is from the government of Pakistan, when the ambassador said, can you come for 1 week and clean up? I said, I can come for 1 week to clean up Pakistan, but not corruption in Pakistan. Second was Greece. Greece also, certain influential members talked to me. So this kind of thing, India's reputation has suddenly gone up because its democratic institutions are functioning as nowhere else in the world, leaving aside certain developed democratic countries, and bringing to book the most very important, highly placed people and sending them to jail. Today, Tihar jail is no more called Tihar jail, it's called Club Tihar. Because it's such a high, there are so many CEOs there, and they have to share 4 to a bathroom. And of course, the mosquitoes give them as much trouble as they give all of us. So they're living a very hard life, and it's the hottest part of Delhi today, the hottest season. So they are going through hell. Jail means hell, and they're all going through that. This has set a tone, but there is a lot of work to be done. So I would say, now that you've understood how corruption is generated, let me go to the second point. Why is it bad? What is wrong if a few ministers, to expedite a decision, take a little money? Well, it doesn't quite end that way. You see, when this money comes, first of all, you are sub-optimizing. Sub-optimizing means that you are not getting the most meritorious decisions made. If you're not getting the most meritorious decisions made, then your resources are being misutilized. And you're not getting the highest rate of return for your resources. That's a real criminal act, because these are taxpayers' money. And who are the people who have money to give in cash to the minister? Generally criminals. And so the criminal element comes to the top. And they become new barons and new heroes, because they have so much money to throw around. Political parties then start getting money from them, then they become soft on them, they are not able to take action against them. So many of the big crimes, you see, because big people are involved, don't get investigated because of this. So this is the first impact, which is very bad for the country. Second is, this money cannot be put into building a factory, because then it becomes an asset to be observed by the income tax. They can ask you a question. So most of this money either goes abroad through the Hawala route, or it has to be utilized in India for consumption purposes, where it's very difficult to chase around people and find out where did you get this money to buy an air conditioner. So you find these people who become corrupt suddenly have fancy houses, they have air conditioner in every room, including the bathroom. You know, it's a luxury life. They have 5-6 cars, nothing short of Mercedes and Lexus and BMWs and so on. And most of the drunken driving in Delhi is now being done by BMW drivers. So somebody told me if you ban BMW, then drinking will be reduced. Not true. But the fact is that this is the kind of public identification and anger at the people who are splurging money, wedding receptions, you know, the amount of gaudy spending that takes place. All these things are, what do? They change the investment priority in the country. Why? Because the rate of return of luxury goods industries goes up. Even when we had this economic crisis of the 2007-2009 period, we found that 5-star hotels were always full. We found that first-class travel in aircrafts always full, because these are black money people. Even real estate, which is largely run on black money, didn't suffer, whereas it suffered in other countries. So, therefore, this investment priorities get lopsided. People stop, investors say, why should I spend on producing cloth for the ordinary man, or artifacts for the common man? I must now go and invest in luxury goods industry. Now estimated by using sophisticated input-output techniques and matrix algebra, that in India, 70% of our investment goes directly or indirectly to sustain luxury goods industry in our country. That's not acceptable for us. Third thing is that this cash, because now the government has legitimized forward trading in food items, what they are doing with this cash is they are going to the farmer and giving him in cash and saying, don't bring it to the market. Give us your rice, give us your wheat, give us your vegetables, give us your milk, give us the sugar cane that you have, and then they stock it. When they stock it, prices shoot up, inflation shoots up. Who does that inflation affect? It affects the common man. And then after that it is reached sky high, they open the godowns and these materials come to the market and the prices come down. So there's huge profiteering going on. Our country, GDP is supposed to be growing at 9% per year. How is it that inflation is growing at 16% per year? Because in economics we teach that when supply expands, prices come down. But here, India has turned economics upside down. Supply is also increasing, prices also increasing at the same time. So this is the third effect. The fourth effect is something again the brain of Mr. Chidambaram has gone to play. One of the key politicians complained to Chidambaram that these Swiss people are so terrible that not only they take our money, but instead of giving us interest on our account, they charge a 2% service charge. So every year we are bleeding to a 2% service charge. Imagine if our accounts, if our total amount of money in Swiss banks and other places is $1.5 trillion as some estimates are, and you put 2% on that, how much these countries are benefiting. So therefore Mr. Chidambaram came up with a wonderful idea that I'll create a new financial derivative, and that derivative will be called a participatory note. What is the participatory note? You take your rupees, give it to a Hawala man, and the Hawala man will have it sent to you in Europe. You take the dollars that you get in Europe, go to Morgan Stanley or go to, there's a famous investment company, American one, Fidelity Investments, and put it on the counter and say, give me a participatory note. Only country in the world which has participatory note is India. And this is how our brains are being misused to create all these nefarious instruments. So you put it there, he'll give you a piece of paper on which only the amount will be written. and you take that and bring it to the country, give a photocopy to the Reserve Bank, and then, because it's illegal, and then you go to the mutual funds and say, please invest this in the stock market. Now he invests in the stock market. Many such people also bring other participatory notes and they invest, and the stock market booms. And today our stock market has become completely rigged. The middle classes are losing money heavily. But these people who come with participatory notes, they see the stock market going up and then bringing it down. They sell off and bring it down. There was only one problem which also Mr. Chidambaram corrected, namely that if you sell at the height, then you have to pay 25% capital gains tax. So he suggested that if you come via Mauritius and you create a $1 company, and that company invests in the stock market, then because Mauritius is a poor country and we want to help it, no capital gains tax for that $1 company. So billions of dollars are coming, $1 billion going out. $61 billion came at one stage, and all this money is black money going out, round tripping via Mauritius and coming to India and rigging the stock market completely. So this is another damage it is doing. And the law has been so designed now that SEBI, which is called Security Exchange Bureau of India, like the SEC here, it has been barred from asking any questions about participatory notes. Because if you were, as an ordinary person, go and buy a share, they'll ask you, where do you get the money from? Where's the check? What a photocopy? All that. But participatory note, no question asked. Tarapore committee said, abolish this. Reserve Bank governor says, no, this is very, very dangerous. National Security Advisor says, terrorists are using this participatory notes to collect money from the stock market and using it for blowing up Bombay. So, all this, but still nobody wants to touch the participatory note. This is again because of corruption. And finally, let me tell you, the national security is now thoroughly compromised. After all, when you get black money, you send it abroad, you send it through these Hawala people. Who are these Hawala people? They all have to keep a lot of foreign powers happy. If you want to send by Hawala to Dubai, then you have to keep Pakistan happy. Pakistan knows who has got our bank account, who has got foreign bank accounts. Other intelligence agencies also know who has got foreign bank accounts. They can blackmail your leaders, that we will expose you if you don't do this. This happened in this oil for food program of Saddam Hussein's matter also. Then you saw how Etisalat and Telenor have entered into our country when the Home Ministry advisory says don't let them come in any capacity anywhere. So national security is being compromised. Terrorists are using these facilities. All kinds of things are happening. Your economy is in the effect of corruption is enormous. And therefore, don't ever think it's only between a politician and some businessman and the politician becoming rich. After all, he has to fight an election, so he has to earn some money. No. It is multi-dimensional effect on the economy. And if there's one problem which should receive our primary interest, it is this. Look at the government, instead of being supportive, how much they are opposing. The German government once found out that their officials were having illegal accounts in Liechtenstein. So they asked the Liechtenstein government to give us these accounts. Liechtenstein government said, no, we asked a secret account, our whole business depends on it, we will not do that. So what did the German government do? They bribed the senior most official of the bank and got a CD of all the accounts of everybody who's got a numbered account. And then they downloaded it and divided it up into several countries. There are 24 countries whose officials had, whose ministers had illegal bank account in Liechtenstein. Then Germany wrote a letter to all the 24 countries, heads of all 24 countries, that we have got your nationals' bank account. If you want them, we are ready to send it to you. 23 countries immediately wrote back, please send it to us. One country said, kept quiet. And you can guess which that country is. India did not reply. 3 reminders from Germany, no reply. Then some of us came to know about it. So we went to court. Supreme Court gave a direction. Go get those names. Well, then Mr. Manmohan Singh agreed and he sent somebody, got the names. Now Supreme Court says, give us the names. They say, no, it's national understanding between countries, double taxation. But the Supreme Court said, this is not you and Liechtenstein. The German government got it by bribery and it has become now a common knowledge. So give it to us. Till date, the government of India has not given those 16 names who are there in the Liechtenstein bank accounts to the Supreme Court. In disgust, the Supreme Court has appointed a special investigating team headed by a former retired judge called Jeevan Reddy. And before they could even start working, the government has gone in appeal. Please reconsider this judgment. Of course, the names will come out. And I can tell you some really big names are in it. So here is a situation that black money of this country, which can finance your entire economic development of invest in infrastructure and your universities, building your, modernizing your university, the government is reluctant to get the material. So what are we to do if this is the situation? We can catch people. It's not that easy in India. We have a bad record. On 7th of January 2008, there was a press conference in Hyderabad addressed by Ramalinga Raju of Satyam, saying, I have sinned, I have manipulated the accounts, I am willing to suffer any punishment. Around the same time, I think a day before, in New York there was another press conference addressed by Bernard Madoff. He said, I have sinned, I have done Ponzi scheme, deprived people of their pension funds. I am ready to face any punishment. In 6 months' time, Bernard Madoff was convicted of 150 years prison term. And he's in jail now. And Ramalinga Raju is in air-conditioned hospital, lying, enjoying life. Nothing has happened to him so far. This is the problem. How do we correct it? I can show to you that doesn't matter if you have a low probability of catching people. But when you catch them, you will find, and you throw the book at them, then it becomes an interest of every individual not to be corrupt. If I can just briefly show you, I think for those of you who have done a little statistics, very simple statistics. If B is bribe and D is the penalty, D is the penalty, D is the penalty, this is penalty. I'm taking it in monetary terms just now, bribe. And the probability of you being caught and made to pay a penalty is P. Therefore, the probability of not being caught and to enjoy your bribe is 1 minus P. And therefore, expected value is 1 minus P times B plus P times D. And D is negative, so I'll put it as 1 minus P times B plus, minus P absolute value of D. And if I say D, the penalty is some lambda times the bribe, and I take lambda to be, say, 99 times, then I can show, I don't want to further involve with it, but you just replace, for D you put lambda B, and you can show that if lambda is 99, then even if the probability is as low as 0.01, the expected value will be negative. So rational human beings on their own will not engage in corruption if they think that the on balance of being caught and not caught, I will lose money. And if that happens, he will automatically on his own become like that. You see, United States works on that principle. The United States works on that principle. Once Martha Stewart, she told a friend that I went to some party and I heard somebody selling some shares, you sell it. She told her stockbroker. They caught her and sent her to 6 months or 5 months in jail, in prison, like any other prisoner. They put her in. I know, what had she done that she's a celebrity and she's a great, I think cooking was her specialty or something. She was on TV all the time, and you put her in like this. They said, yes, if you catch, then we throw the book. So Madoff, 150 years. Then Enron, they took that Skilling, who was a Harvard business MBA, top executive, every president would have dinner with him. They put him in a handcuff and took him. So therefore, that is one way of doing it. Of course, the Chinese now are executing their people. But I think as far as China is concerned, if you fall foul of the Communist Party, then you are executed. And China's Prevention of Corruption Act does not apply to the president, prime minister, ministers, general secretary of the party and all. It only applies to deputy mayors and lower levels. And that too, those who fall foul of the Communist Party, they are executed. So that's not enough. I don't think you need to go that far to execute people or to create a deterrent. But a deterrent where you catch somebody, then you must confiscate his all property. You must take away everything he has. Then only you will be creating a disincentive for corruption. That's the short run thing. Anna Hazare has produced a bill which the government has now rejected. There is only one item in that bill of Anna Hazare, proposed bill of Anna Hazare, which I very strongly recommend that any future government should implement. And that is called independent prosecutor. That independent prosecutor is there in America. So when Clinton got stuck on that Monica Lewinsky, there's a man called Ken Starr who was appointed as independent prosecutor. When President Nixon got stuck on that Watergate, there was an independent prosecutor. Hong Kong, which was considered the most corrupt Asian nation, appointed an independent prosecutor, and within 10 years became the cleanest Asian country, as judged by the index of the Transparency International. So this is something we need, because today, if I want any investigation, CBI will go and ask the Home Minister, or they ask the Prime Minister, it is literally under the Prime Minister. So it is under the influence of the government, and if the government says, no, don't do anything, they won't do anything. We don't want that. We want somebody who is independent, who can directly order the CBI, go and find out about this. I thought the CVC could be one such person, but the CVC is totally devoid of powers. Of course, they tried to bring in a corrupt man and put him there who would look after the interests of the corrupt people, but the Supreme Court struck his name down, and I think that this is something that needs to be done. But there is a long-term solution which we must think, and with that I will conclude. You see, after all, why do people want to be corrupt? Well, leave aside the fact that you are incompetent, now you can't get anything on merit and so on. But generally speaking, when a society decides to value wealth as above everything else, that society, greed will come. And once greed comes, then corruption is inevitable. United States today has suffered because of the greed which was translated in terms of all these new derivatives they produced, and how these investment banks were able to buy mortgages from banks, and ultimately the subprime loan came into existence, and ultimately one little crisis has wrecked their economy. Also, let us understand that even if you have lots of money, you are not going to be happy. If that was so, then money will make you happy. Then why is it that our Swamiji's ashrams are all full of foreigners who are so rich? Go and see Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram. So many foreigners there. They are coming to say, tell me what is mental peace. Satya Sai Baba, when he was there, foreigners used to be there all the time. And they used to ask him simple question and he used to give a simple answer, they used to be satisfied. I remember one American woman, very rich American woman, who asked him, Babaji, I want peace. So he said, you want peace? Then get rid of I, that is your ego, do want, which is your desire, and you will be left with peace. And she was so mighty happy. I find this with Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Baba Ramdev, so many. I mean, this country, the attraction for Swamiji is so much that even I, who's not a Swamiji, they see my name in the telephone directory, they'll telephone, do you give lessons in Gita? I can make more money that way than being a Harvard professor, I can tell you that. Recently, a very rich Hollywood actress called Julia Roberts went to India, and she said, oh, these people are poor and still so happy, I want to know what the truth is. So she was taken to a Swamiji, and he explained Bhagavad Gita to her, and she came back and she became a Hindu, she made her husband Hindu, she made her children Hindu. Here, Stephen Jobs, he has not declared it, but he went to Varanasi and accepted the Hindu way of life. So many rich people in this country, they have also taken to our yoga. There are so many things. Yoga is supposed to give mental peace. They have taken to that. So, despite all this prosperity in this society, people don't seem to be happy. And this struck me first time when I came as a student long years ago to Harvard to get my PhD. And my classmate, an American, asked me, how did you Indian people accept Mahatma Gandhi as your leader? So I said, why not? You mean in America you will not accept him? He said, in America if he comes, we'll put him in jail for indecent exposure. That made me think, Yes, he's right. Mahatma Gandhi had only one piece of loincloth, and these millions of people going after him. What is the secret? So I went back to reading, and I found that there was a debate between Rishi Bhrigu and Rishi Bhardwaj. And both discuss how to structure society so it becomes a happy, stable society. And Bhrigu says the only way happiness can come in a society if the four sources of power are, decentralized. That is, no one person has more than one source of power. So Bharadwaj says, what are those four sources of power? He says, knowledge, weapons, wealth, land. So naturally, he said that these four should be separated. Those who specialize in knowledge cannot have weapons. Between Rishi Bhrigu and Rishi Bhardwaj. And both discuss how to structure society so it becomes a happy, stable society. And Bhrigu says the only way happiness can come in a society if the four sources of power are, decentralized. That is, no one person has more than one source of power. So Bharadwaj says, what are those four sources of power? He says, knowledge, weapons, wealth, land. So naturally, he said that these four should be separated. Those who specialize in knowledge cannot have weapons, cannot have wealth, cannot have land. Those who have weapons cannot make a decision to go to war, cannot give punishment to the people. He has to defer to those with knowledge. That's how the Varna Vyavastha came. But it was not based. But it was not based on birth, you see. That's where the degeneration has taken place. Today I have sometimes people coming from, one day once a man came and said, Swamiji, you must do something about Brahmins, they are suffering. I said, are you a Brahmin? He said, yes. I said, where do you work? He says, I'm executive director in Bata Shoe Company. I said, I am not a Brahmin. So the original idea was discipline. And it was not birth. If it was birth, you tell me, how did Veda Vyasa, who was the son of a fisherwoman, become a Maharishi and write the Mahabharata? How did Valmiki, who was a child of the Dalits, he became a Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana? How did Kalidasa, who was a hunter, become the Maharishi and became the poet of poets? How did Vishwamitra, who was born in a Kshatriya family, become the Rishi of Rishis? Even the gods used to be afraid of him. This has got nothing to do with birth. And if you are a Brahmin and you broke the law, you were punished. For example, Ravan was a Brahmin. And because he committed the crime of taking away Sita, he was punished and killed by a Kshatriya king. And the Brahmins didn't say, oh, this Kshatriya killed one of us Brahmins, so let us now finish him off. There was no such identification. It was a discipline that had to be observed. And that Vaishyas who earned wealth, they were not to get social status on the basis of their wealth, but on the extent of their philanthropy. In my opinion, this globalization has completely destabilized us. It has made us totally materialistic. Indians are becoming fast that way. They have lost these old values, and that is why corruption is increased with economic freedom and with economic reforms. There was corruption even in the Soviet period when we had Soviet economic model, with licenses, quotas and so on. But now it's much more, because the numbers are also much larger, the GDP is much larger. But it is because progressively we are becoming so materialistic that we think money is the source of all your social status and your position in society. But that has to change. We have to go back where we regard the pursuit of education, sacrifice, which Mahatma Gandhi represented, which or today we respect our Swamijis, but they don't wear expensive clothes. But see the Pope, how well he dressed he is. In fact, the American student told me that our leader must be dressed in the best suit with the best tie, otherwise we won't even look at him. And you can see the mullahs in Iran, how well dressed they are. But look at our most prominent sadhus. They have hardly anything on their body except a piece of cloth. This is the tradition that must be brought back. And that tradition, if it comes back, then we're happy. The world is coming around to that. After all these Americans going to India for peace means that process, they have also accepted that. But we who created this tradition, this wonderful system, have forgotten about it. If that comes, long run, India will abolish corruption. I can tell you that India was not a corrupt society 500 years ago. There were Chinese travelers who came, they have written books. Vasco da Gama, he has written a book. There are so many visitors. Mark Twain came, he wrote a book. All of them say one thing, very honest people, they don't even lock their houses when they go out. What happened to us? Where have we lost it all? It's no use blaming foreign invasions in the past anymore. Now it is because of this crass materialism that has taken root in our mind, that money is everything, wealth is everything. That changes, then in the long run we will be safe. Short run, you don't worry, I am not going to give up no matter what. India on the 11th and 24th. I have this, from there I have a series of cases in the Supreme Court. I am expecting a fresh parliamentary elections in end of the year. And I've also gone to court to prove that the electronic voting machine can be rigged, and therefore amendment is necessary. The court asked me what's that amendment. I said a voter receipt I must get, and after reading the voter receipt I'll put it in a box and go. If there's a dispute I'll count that and not the machine. And therefore now it's going to be very difficult to use the electronic voting machine to get a majority. Of course, you see, it can be rigged because the machine has a microcontroller, and a Japanese company produces it and it embeds it for the Electronic Corporation of India. So I contacted the Japanese company and I said, this microcontroller, is it the best quality you produce? He said, yes. I said, do you use it in Japan? He said, don't be silly. In Japan, we don't believe in electronic voting machine. We use ballot papers. England uses ballot papers. Germany, the Supreme Court has said, stop this electronic machine, use ballot papers. India has brought in, they claimed originally in court, oh, the world over there is demand for our electronic voting machine. So I asked the court to give them a list of countries which are buying our electronic voting machine. I know which names came: Venezuela, Nigeria, Mauritius, and Malaysia. These countries do want to rig the election, I think, and that's why nobody else wants to buy it. Electronic voting machine has been responsible for rigged elections for the last two elections, 2004 and 2009, and the next election should not be rigged. That I thank again the court for directing the election commission to give a voter slip. The election commission has now finally agreed, and therefore I think we will in the next election get a government which will be not the usual thing that you know. There are so many forces which are now working together, including the sadhus and sannyasis have come out in the field. They have a huge following. So altogether we will have something new, like in 1977, a Janata Party was created by JP, something new will come. And I hope that through this political process also, along with the cultural renaissance, that we go back to those values where we do not place money as the end of all, as everything. That system will make India once again, like it was 500 years ago, a corruption-free country. Thank you very much.